from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 707 with special guest Kenny Florian. He's a former UFC fighter, but now he covers the game in a different aspect as an analyst. So we're really looking forward to having him on the show. I'm joined by my special co-host, Easy from Speakeasy Sports. Man, he does a great job with his show, so go check him out. But first of all, Kenny, thanks for joining the show. How are you and your family doing so far in the year of 2021?
Doing good, man. I feel like things are getting better. 2020, I'm not sure a whole lot of things could get worse, but yeah, things are good, man. Feeling good and ready to rock.
So where are you guys located right now?
Right now, I'm in the Carolinas. So, yeah.
All right.
So I was in LA for about 10 years,
Okay.
and now kind of in the middle of a move.
Oh, wow.
Dude, everybody's moving out from there. Is it is it the Rona stuff?
I think it's just kind of a combination of everything, So I think right now, kind of defining how you want to live. A lot of things can be done online now.
Yeah.
Everything from just kind of getting a little bit more space and getting a little bit, more freedom for myself and my family. That's kind of growing now. So, and of course, it's an expensive place to be, California. So, I feel like when I'm not kind of getting the same kind of benefits from living there, for myself and my family, trying to look for the best place to be.
So I'll let Easy start off here first.
Oh, thanks, Nathan. What's up, Kenny? So Nathan threw me this curveball last minute because his other co-host is way greater than me. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm a huge UFC fan. I actually, like Nathan said, I have a podcast myself. We had guys like Kevin Lee, and I nerd out hardcore. I gotta ask, man, what do you think of the evolution of Kamaru Usman last weekend, man? That was amazing to see, huh?
It was amazing. Kamaru basically, when he came into this sport, was a pure wrestler, and would utilize wrestling to defeat his opponents. And of course, his conditioning is his pressure. But he's clearly developing into a very good striker now as well. I thought his jab was setting everything up, and his ability to adjust during the fight and utilize that jab really threw Gilbert Burns off, because it looked like it wasn't going well for him in the first round. But he's smart. He fought a smart fight, did exactly what he needed to do, stayed out of the dangerous spots from Gilbert Burns, and made the right adjustments where Gilbert didn't. I also think his experience really paid off. It looked like Gilbert got a little overly emotional, got a little too excited, and it seemed to wear on him. It seemed like he started to lose steam as the fight went off, seemed a little bit more confused. And once Kamaru was able to make the proper adjustments, it was all Kamaru. And he's looking better and better all the time, which is hard to see from a champion. You don't see, for me, in my opinion, you see great fighters, but you don't see a tremendous amount of evolution, especially with guys who are kind of near the top. Some guys they get to a certain level and you don't see them expand their game. They're still awesome fighters, but you don't see them expand as fighters. And Kamaru Usman's one of the few guys who's a champion who continues to get better in other aspects, and he showed that against Burns.
Mm-hmm. Do you think part of that's because he's like with Whitman, and it's kind of more like one-on-one individual work versus guys being at the big camps?
It definitely could be, man. I think you bring up a great point, dude, because I think this is where the sport is headed. Like and ATT does a great job, and there's other camps that do a great job, but you have to have an individualized training regimen, right? It's like if I'm in the room and I'm already a great wrestler and I need to get my striking to a certain level, I can't be in the room, with everybody else learning kind of some of the basics that I've already done like 15, 20 years ago. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to be in a big room with everybody else. I would need a group of coaches that would have, individualized training plans for me. Like, Kenny, this is what you need to work on, or Jorge Masvidal, this is what you need to work on, or whoever it is, Kamaru, this is what we need to work on for this specific fight. And if you don't have that at the highest level, it's going to be very difficult. And I think, it's obviously very different if someone's starting their career as a professional, as someone who's already established. But if you're already established as a professional fighter in the UFC, you need a very specific group of coaches who are catering your training to you.
Mm-hmm.
So Trevor's doing a great job of that.
Yeah. So obviously you're a legend. You're a legend in the UFC game, and obviously on the show we had Jamal Hill. On the show we had Frank Yeager, we have Burt Watson, we have Karrion Bryant. So for you, what experience have you learned as a starting with for you being a UFC fighter, and what's it like now after your fighting career, being able to cover as an analyst, so to be able to share your stories to these other UFC fighters that are coming up? What's that like? What's that been like?
Man, I feel blessed. I got into the game when, UFC fighters weren't famous, when UFC fighters weren't making a heck of a lot of money. And all I was concerned with was having the ability to test myself and get better as a martial artist. And for me, it was awesome. And then to have the ability to go and cover the sport, and have all these other opportunities, from the Anakin Florian podcast to being able to cover the sport, as an analyst for Fox Sports or ESPN, or now getting a chance to do something like BattleBots on Discovery Channel. Like so many doors have been opened for me just from doing what I love to do. And I guess the only thing I would say to people who are maybe in a job that they don't love, or looking to get into something, find what you love, work your ass off at it. And I think doors were open, for you. So, don't be afraid to not follow your dreams, or, oh, that seems too hard, or I can't change my life at this point. It's too late. Like, I started as a professional fighter at 28 years old.
What?
I was super late. I was super late in the game.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't start as a professional fighter at 20. I was just 28 years old. So I was on the Ultimate Fighter, I think, after only a year or maybe 16 months of training in mixed martial arts.
I didn't know that.
I had jujitsu experience, but that's totally different, right? So don't put restrictions on yourself and on your limitations and on your mind. You can do anything you want to do at any point. It's going to take hard work, but if you love what you do, just go for it and do it.
Yeah.
Yo, that means a lot, because I actually have a buddy going through that transition right now. My friend Baby Hulk, he kind of went viral actually through this thing called Street Beefs. It's like backyard brawling pretty much, but he's older. We're both 26, 27, and right. He's kind of like, man, I don't know if it's too late to actually make a career of this. But you just, you have this conversation with you now. I could bring that back to him and give him more hope and more motivation to follow his dreams. Because that's amazing. I didn't know that.
100%, man. I think everything's in your mind, and what you think you can accomplish is what you'll accomplish. If you put restrictions on that, then you're limiting yourself. So I think the key thing is just working your ass off and finding a way to make it happen, no matter what. There were times where, whether it was, I didn't have a whole lot of money, or, had to, I remember staying at my parents' place or staying at a friend's place because I didn't have enough money. And then, just working hard and believing in yourself every single day, and building yourself up and working hard. And it may not be a short road, but you tell me anything worth succeeding at, if it's too easy, it's probably not worth it. You know what I mean? All the things that are worthwhile are going to be hard. So it's like, all right, knowing that's going to be hard and believing in yourself that you're going to achieve it.
So I got to ask you this: what was the process like for you getting to your goal, which was UFC at 28? Explain to us, what was your process like before getting to UFC?
So I started doing jiu-jitsu in college. I was playing soccer at Boston College, and I was kind of like, my parents wanted me to do school after college. They wanted me to go to law school. They wanted me to do other things, and I didn't feel like that was something that was going to fulfill me. And I loved martial arts. I just didn't know. I was like, how do I make money and do this full time? I thought it would be as an instructor. I thought I would open up a school and just teach jiu-jitsu and martial arts to people. And it ended up being something way bigger. I tried out one fight. I was like, I just want to know that I can defend myself in a real confrontation against another skilled fighter. And then after that, I'm good. I'll go teach. But then one fight became 2 fights, and then became 3 fights, and then 4 fights. And Dana White happened to be at my 4th fight. I fought a dude with he had 30 fights of experience or more, and I had 4. And we had an absolute war. And Dana White happened to be there. He was scouting out my opponent. And I thought I won the fight. The other guy thought he won. The other guy ended up winning by a split decision. And Dana White came back to my dressing room and was like, hey kid, I thought you won the fight. I thought you were going to get your ass kicked. You didn't look like a fighter, but hey, we're doing this thing called the Ultimate Fighter.
Wow.
Would you want to be a part of it? And I was so pissed that I lost. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, yeah, whatever. You know, people were like, dude, that's Dana White. Like, do you realize this is a crazy opportunity for you? And I was like, man, I don't care. I just want to fight again. Like, I was so upset that I lost. I need to get better, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah, the moment, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, listen, have your brother, you know, send in an interview or something, and we'll see if you could be on the Ultimate Fighter. And I ended up like, I didn't even send an interview. I sent like a DVD of me teaching or something like that. And I got a call from the producers, and they invited me out to Vegas. And, you know, I ended up getting picked to be on the first season of the Ultimate Fighter. And then that led to a whole career in fighting. I got to the finals of the Ultimate Fighter. I was the smallest dude. I was the least experienced guy on the show. I ended up getting to the final. I got my ass kicked in the final against Diego Sanchez. And again, I was like, I'm not going out like that. I need to be better than that. I was like, maybe he would have beaten me, maybe he wouldn't have, but I beat myself before that fight happened. And that didn't sit well with me. And I wanted to go back harder and train harder and be a real professional. And that's kind of what started it all. There was just this fuel and this fire in me that didn't want to stop until I was satisfied. And ultimately, I retired in the sport, because of a back injury, but I loved every minute of it. And I was just fueled by trying to get better. And, you know, I ended up fighting, you know, for three world championships in 2 different weight classes. And, you know, I think about, you know, people always ask me, you know, what was that like to lose and get to the top? And I think about, you know, everyone's journey is different.
Yeah.
And my journey was about being the best mixed martial artist I could be and learning as much as possible. And for me, maybe it wasn't about winning. And the gifts that were given to me was so I can learn as much as possible and evolve as much as possible. And sometimes when you do that, you don't get the championship. So, you know, in either way, it was an amazing experience. And a lot of times you never know where life is going to take you. Just keep following what you love to do and just be open to opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point too, because I feel like there's a new age of MMA fans who kind of know you from your role now, you know, as an analyst and commentator
Right.
with the podcast with John Anik, and it's I guess it's just weird how life could lead to that way, and like you said, just following your passion, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is a
Do you?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Nathan. I apologize.
Sorry. You go.
No, man, I'm all over the place. I'm freaking talking to Kenny Florian. You go.
Yeah,
You probably
go.
have a really structured question, man.
No, we bounce off. So you go next. You're next.
I mean, shoot. I'll say this, and I'll let Nathan ask his question. Is it safe to say, you know, you don't want to use the term foot fairy around Kenny Florian? Because I did not know you started off as a soccer player.
I know, it's funny. I joke around this. I'm like, yeah, I went from pretending like I was injured to then trying to injure other people. You know, not that I played that game too much, but you know, I always joke about that. It's funny because like soccer is considered like one of the wimpiest sports, and I went into mixed martial arts from there. But I did love soccer, and I still do. I love watching, and it was kind of a funny transition, but it did teach me a whole lot about. First of all, like you got to be in shape for soccer. You know, I used to run like all the time. I played center midfield, so I was running all over the place. And then, you know, also it taught me about like hard work. And also I felt like in soccer, I felt like I didn't fulfill a lot of, like I was a talented soccer player, but I also feel like I didn't have some of the work ethic. Like I feel like I had a little bit more talent when it came to soccer than other people, but I didn't put in everything I had into it. Like sometimes in the off season, I was a little lazy. I wasn't doing the running. I wasn't doing some of the skill building stuff that other guys were doing. And I started off quick, and then other guys started to surpass me. And I remember when I started doing martial arts, I said, I didn't want that to be the case. Like I needed to work harder than everybody else because I was also starting a lot later than most people. So, you know, I learned a lot from soccer and you know, from my mistakes, and I think it helped me for mixed martial arts for sure, especially with footwork. Like it's not something I think I realized at the time, but like footwork is such a huge part of striking. People always look at like hitting pads and how hard you hit, but if you're not in the right distance and if you're not aware of where you need to be defensively, you get beat up or you're not going to hit the target. So footwork was a huge part. It allowed me, I think, to pick up striking a lot quicker than I would have.
So obviously last year, and we're still going through a struggle with the COVID and pandemic. So for you, if you were still a fighter fighting in this generation, do you care about if you need fans in the stadiums or in the stadiums or not? Because I had a lot of athletes on the show saying that they don't care if it's fans or no fans. But for you, if you're still fighting, does it matter to you which environment you're in?
I always fought better when there wasn't many fans, to be honest. I felt like it allowed me to really just focus on what's in front of me. And then over time, I got used to the fans and whatever. It was fine to compete with the fans. But I actually felt like when it was quieter, when there was less distraction, when there was less commotion around me, that I was able to focus even more. So I feel like I probably would have thrived in this environment. It would have been a little bit more difficult because there's so many more protocols that you need to go through as a fighter now, like from being quarantined to, all the things that your cornerman and all your team has to do. So that would have been probably tougher, and the travel would have been tougher because now they're only doing it in Vegas or Abu Dhabi. Yeah.
I think I enjoy it without the fans, honestly, more too, like watching the guys. I mean, I miss some of the showmanship from guys like Izzy and the guys who do that, but the reality is not everybody's Izzy Adesanya, and he's a star for a reason.
Exactly.
In the cage, it's better without the fans. And you hear a lot more of those punches. The jiu-jitsu, I think, is a little better without the fans too. Maybe I'm not. Yeah.
No, I agree, man. I agree. It's also like a lot of the places that we used to go to, you hear a lot of the fans boo for no reason. You're like, come on. Like, it's whack, man. Yeah.
You are a jiu-jitsu guy. In that first fight, I have to know because I'm a white belt, one stripe, no big deal. But
yes.
Did you tap your first opponent out when you transitioned to MMA, or was it?
So let's see.
My
first fight was a TKO. Actually, I got into the mount position, so it was the jiu-jitsu position. I got to the mount position, and I was just firing off shots, and the guy ended up tap. It was either a tap or the referee stopped it. I think it was a tap. I think the guy tapped from strikes, but So I definitely used jiu-jitsu, but it wasn't a submission per se.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Is there any like slowing down that adrenaline in that moment, like when you like just TKO'd somebody or KO'd someone? Like, how do you come down from that?
Yeah, dude, no, I'm telling you, there were certain fights that I had where I didn't sleep. Like I used to have trouble sleeping anyway. Like I didn't sleep a whole lot. I have a really active mind. So, it took me a little while. Now I'm in a zone where I can sleep pretty well during the night. But there were nights, and I'll be honest with you, like after I fought, and I wouldn't even go out. Like I wouldn't even go out. I'd just be in my room, like talking with my cornerman or my brother, or writing things down and things that I should have done better, or watching the fight where I wouldn't even sleep all night. And then I'd just crash like the next night. I'd be on such like a high from the experience, from fighting. So yeah, it's crazy. Or even if I lost, like if I lost, I'd be so upset and then just be going over the fight in my mind or watching the fight where I wouldn't sleep. I'd be so pissed at myself. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, definitely it's something that you need to learn how to control over time. And I think being able to control your emotions is huge, man, for fighting.
Mm-hmm. So I got to ask you this, obviously, in this industry is all about networking, building connections. And for you, obviously, Dana, what's it like seeing Dana White succeeding with this UFC stuff, even though in this pandemic, and he basically gave you an opportunity to start your fighting career too. So what's it like just working with him now and working with Karrion, Brian, Megan, Ariel, and all these other UFC reporters out there?
Yeah, it's been an awesome experience, man. Seeing what Dana has created, it has been extremely impressive. He's always been a hard worker and a go-getter and a hustler. And to see what he's, because I've been there since the beginning, and to see what he's done with UFC to the beginning now, and now see it really go mainstream. Back when I was fighting, people were like, UFC, what is that? Or what do you do? Or what's jiu-jitsu? And now everybody knows what it is, and I think we take that for granted. And I think Dana, however, if you want to criticize him or praise him, whatever it is, you have to give him credit for what he has done and what he's created. It is absolutely amazing. And the kind of, talk about networks, the kind of networking that he's done to take it to this level is extremely impressive. There's no denying that.
Yeah, and just a follow-up question. I'm a big advocate in women in sports, and obviously we have a lot of talented women UFC fighters in this game, like Jessica Ai, Amanda Nunes. By far, Amanda Nunes is one of the best out there by far. But for you, what other women fighters should we be looking out for in the next few years? Because I feel like I've been connecting with Jessica Ai a little bit on Instagram because she's really inspiring. But for you, which women fighters should we be looking out for?
I think Alexa Grasso, who just fought, is definitely someone to watch. She is extremely impressive, and I think is continually getting better. And that's something that I look for. At first she was really just primarily a striker, and now she has really improved her grappling game and continues to get better. I think obviously Valentina Shevchenko, another great champion, in the 125-pound weight class, has been amazing. And Rose Namajunas is another female fighter that I have a lot of respect for. She's a true martial artist. She is humble. She continues to get better. She's a hard worker. And for her, it's really about the martial arts lifestyle. And, I respect all those women, man, and anyone who gets in there, really, but anyone who takes it seriously enough to make it more than just a sport, to make it really their life, it's extremely impressive.
Oh yeah, especially you consider all like the slimy promoters and stuff like along the way to reach that spot.
Right. Totally, man. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your podcast with Jon Anik, and obviously we have to get him on the show pretty soon. But when did you guys start this podcast, and what's it like working with him? Obviously he's a big name in the UFC business too.
Yeah, we're now kind of approaching the 300 episode mark, I think. Maybe another 30 episodes or so. We're getting to that level, and we've been doing it for a few years now. And John, had the idea of doing a podcast, before there were so many podcasts. So kudos to John for convincing me to do it. And I'm so glad we did, because a lot of times when you're breaking down a fight after a fight, people don't realize on television, you only have so much time to do so. You have maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute and change if you're lucky to break down a fight.
Yeah.
On the podcast, you can go as long as you want. We can really get into the nitty gritty. We can get into a lot of the controversial things. We can talk about a lot of things that we're not able to talk about. And having guests on and having different perspectives for the podcast is helpful for me, because I learned from everyone that I get a chance to talk to. And it's just been a whole lot of fun. Jon Anik is one of those guys who is not only talented at what he does, but is continually trying to get better at what he does. And it's been amazing to see his development for me, and as a friend, just super proud of everything he's accomplished. And the dude's just amazing. So having an opportunity to talk to him, I don't get a chance to do that like we used to. So the podcast is our chance to not only catch up, but to talk about these fights, and doing that has been an awesome thing. The podcast has been growing like crazy. And and for us, we're always trying to take things to the next level and make things better. And hearing feedback from the fans and getting a chance to grow our audience has been something that's been really rewarding.
Yeah, you guys are catching up to our show. You need 400.
Yes.
Two of the greatest minds, man. I love Anik's voice. Is so like it's so like attention drawing when he speaks. I feel like
it is.
Yeah.
It's iconic at this point, man. Like, honestly, he's the best guy to ever do it. No disrespect to anyone else, because we stand on the shoulders of giants. But Jon Anik is one of those guys who has truly raised the level of professionalism in our sport. And I think anytime you have someone who's able to take that up a notch and take it up a level, it adds a tremendous amount of legitimacy. And he's so knowledgeable that when you are listening to him, you pay attention, and that alone is special. And, I always think about, like, what is it about someone's voice that gets you to listen, or gets you to be attracted to it and really pay attention? And I think it's a certain level of authenticity and knowledge that comes out, whether you're aware of that or not. John has that, and I think that's what makes him special.
That's a great point. I want to ask real quick too, because I know Shab had you on the show and you showed off your car collection and whatnot. Hey,
Yeah.
kudos to you, man. Pretty badass. You have guys running Shab
Thank
jealous of you. But did that before that come like during your fight career or at the end of it?
Oh man, like it's funny. I people used to call me like the hair guy or like the fashion guy after I was done fighting. But like when I was fighting, like my only attention pretty much was on fighting, really, man. Like it was just my hair was all over the place. I had like the worst haircuts. I had like terrible fashion sense. Like I just like dressed like a bum, and like basically most of my attention was on fighting. Yeah, it definitely came after I stopped fighting. I really started. I always loved cars, but I didn't really have the time or the attention to it. I definitely had some cool cars when I was fighting, but I was able to focus more on it, I guess, when I didn't have as much attention on fighting. So yeah, that came a little bit after, I think.
So I gotta ask you this. Speaking of podcasts, here's $1 million question. Have you been on Joe Rogan's podcast yet?
I haven't, man. That's like everybody's dream,
that
right?
has to happen. Yeah.
You should be on Joe Rogan's
podcast. You and DC.
Yeah.
Those two need to happen.
I know, dude. I would love to be on Rogan's podcast.
And
John
Anik too.
Legend. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He's an absolute legend. So talk about guys who have created huge things. Everything Joe Rogan touches, it turns to gold. But I think that's because he is authentic and he works his ass off and is passionate about what he does and is a very intelligent dude. So Joe's the man. I would love to be on his podcast if I'm interesting enough to be on it.
Like speaking of shows though, for you, what's it like just to come on like platforms like this and sharing stories about your career, and then for you being an analyst, sharing that too, especially to Easy, me, and then the other shows you've been on so far. What's it like just sharing each platform now?
I love it, man. It's cool to see people going out there and doing their thing. I think the internet is something that I think we're only now taking advantage of in a lot of ways. There's so many uses for it. And, it's almost like each person has the ability to create their own networks. And it reminds me, about 2 months ago, I started my own YouTube channel where I teach jiu-jitsu and I talk about mixed martial arts and I teach different techniques and break things down for people. So if you want to check that out, definitely do that. But, that's my ability to do things unfiltered. Like I don't have someone in my ear, like a producer telling me what to do, telling me what to say. I get to deliver right from my head, right from my heart, whatever the heck I want to talk about. And we forget that we have the ability to create our own network. We have the ability to create our own channel. And if you can create your own brand and get people to follow you and be like, hey, I vibe with that dude. I want to see what he has to say about certain things, or I like the way that he teaches, or I like the way that he talks, or I like the way that he breaks things down. We all have that opportunity through the internet to reach an audience that we never would have been able to reach before. So there's so much opportunity with the internet, whether it's, creating your networks via email or creating your own network on YouTube or, all the different social media networks. It's amazing. And all these things are at our fingertips now. And you can look at the negative side of things, or you can look at the positive side of things and really try to build up a brand and build up a following. And as long as you're doing that authentically and passionate about it and working your ass off, you can really do some amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, man, I've done that for myself with the podcast that Nathan was talking about beforehand, and somehow kind of following my dreams, just as you said, and doing right from YouTube. I picked up by this local network in Detroit. Not in the studio right now, on lunch break to do this, but I would love to have you on sometime, man. The other MMA guys right next door to me, man, he'd freak out if he knew I was talking to Kenny Florian right now, man. So
yeah, man, hit me up for sure.
Yeah, so a couple more things here before we let you go. All right, what was your most memorable fight in your career?
Oh man, it's tough to say. There's been a bunch, but I think I always wanted to fight Takanori Gomi. He was a guy that I always looked up to. He was like the #1 fighter in the world at 155 pounds for several years, and I always envisioned myself fighting him in Japan. I never fought him in Japan, but I did fight him here in the States, and not too far from here, actually, in Charlotte, North Carolina. And, you know, it was a dream come true to be able to fight him in a main event and to get a win over him and to have a nice, clean performance was pretty special.
All right, here's another $1 million question. Obviously, I had Frank Edgar on the show. How many more fights do you think he still has left before he calls it a career?
I'm sorry, who?
Frank Edgar.
Frankie Edgar. Oh man, Frankie is one of the greatest fighters I've ever seen compete. I just want to see him get another fight, get another win. You know, I want him to get another win against maybe another guy who's been around the sport for a little while, with a big name, and have Frankie Edgar go out on a win. I don't know. I don't like, you know, telling fighters how much they should be in there or whatever. It was really hard for me to see a really likable guy in Frankie Edgar get knocked out in his last fight against another great fighter in Corey Sandhagen. So I don't want to see that happen with a legend like Frankie. He's given us so many great fights, and I don't think he has anything left to prove. The dude is a world champion and has beaten some of the greatest fighters that I've ever seen in there. And he will go down as an absolute Hall of Famer. So I would like to see him get another big win and then maybe retire. And I think he's done well enough for himself, and he's been really smart outside of the octagon as far as investing in other things. And I just want to see him get another big win and maybe end his career that way. But of course, I don't know Frankie well enough to know how much or how, you know, many more fights he wants to have. So I just hope he fulfills whatever he wants to accomplish and gets out safely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so before the last two things, what are you most looking forward to this weekend's card?
You know, obviously the main event between Derek Lewis and Curtis Blades should be awesome. I don't see that one going the distance, but it should be a great fight. Derek Lewis, big time knockout artist, and Curtis Blades, awesome takedowns and ground and pound. So that should be a really cool fight. Yeah, I think the main event is probably the one that I'm looking forward to the most. Another one is Imanoff against Phil Hawes. Those are two guys that are kind of on fire right now, that I think kind of the winner of that, we may have a future contender at 185 pounds in the future. So I'm curious to see how that one goes down as well.
Yeah, I wonder if Phil Hawes and Julia Marquez will meet again, because
it looks like awesome. There's two different guys right now, right? It's like that'd be a really cool fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the last two things for me, my co-host Alyssa and I, we were part of the Hugh Jackson Foundation. I'll send you the page.
I'm just joking.
But yeah, so we're part of the Hugh Jackson Foundation, and our goal is to help prevent human trafficking and making sure these people make the right choices, and even the kids too, and make the community safer. And we're really grateful to be ambassadors for them. And like I said, we're going to help prevent human trafficking somehow in some way, because it's still horrible in this generation. So hopefully we can solve it. But the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
Yeah, you know, my father is a medical professional, and you know, I've been around the medical community for a long time, my whole life, obviously, and you know, all the things that they've done, the nurses, the staff, and the doctors, I know they've been working really hard, and obviously the researchers, you know, the fact that they were able to turn around a vaccine as quickly as they have, it's absolutely amazing. You know, if we were in any other time, we would have probably many more deaths, and we would have to be waiting many more years for a vaccine. And the fact that they're able to turn things around this quickly is amazing. It's, you know, a lot of people, we do complain about a lot of things that are going on, you know, especially over the last couple of years, but, you know, things are a lot better now, and we have many more opportunities in today's world than we did, you know, if you go back 100 years, 200 years, 400 years, 500 years, like even, you know, we live better than the richest kings from, you know, 100 years ago or 200 years ago, with all the opportunities that we have. We
have magic now.
Yeah, dude.
They've been mind blown. Like, what?
Exactly. So if we're willing to work hard and achieve things and work together, we can accomplish amazing things. And I think that's proof of that, you know, even in the darkest times, and we've certainly experienced some dark times, but, you know, we do live in an amazing time as well. And I think that's a big takeaway for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else to add, Easy?
No, I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm at work right now too, so that's why I've been like kind of like on and off and just trying to handle everything and stuff. But once we're done recording, I would love to get your contact information or whatever to set something up over here with us.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Yeah, for sure. Hit me up. And I know he has my email. You can email me and hit me up that way, and be happy to come on your show. And I appreciate it, guys. And for anyone who wants to check out our podcast, Anik and Florian podcast, we're on YouTube. We're on all the usual channels for our podcast if you want to listen to it audio wise. And if you want to check out my YouTube channel as well, if you're a practitioner of the sport, hopefully I can help you in that regard. And thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So that wraps up episode 707 with former UFC fighter Kenny Florian. Now he's an analyst for Fox Sports for UFC. Man, keep up the great work. This is truly an honor, and you and your family stay safe.
You as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.